Good evening, folks. Dr. Freedom here with you, and welcome to the Omega Files. Tonight, we've decided to have a debate that maybe some of you have seen before, here and there, but we've never tackled this, these two movies actually together side by side. And oh goodness, after watching Dredd, when I go back and watch Judge Dredd now, it's like, this was a movie? Okay. But I want to get your guys' views on it. When I go ahead and call your names, go ahead and start right in your opening thoughts for, Dredd versus Judge Dredd. What do you think was the good points of either movie? Then we'll go into the bad points afterward. Okay, so let's start at the top with William.
Hey now, how you doing, everybody? This is a great movie. These two movies are great for education people to learn one movie what not to be done, and the other one what's good to be done. Now, of course, they're both done in different decades, and in some, you could say, in some parts, you could tell that, especially with Judge Dredd, it's a part of his time. I'm like when we talked a while back about the original Judge Dredd, you could say 99% was gonna be one of those people that when Stallone took the helmet off, I was gonna get up and leave the theater. But since I paid that much money, I said, let me watch it right there. And then watching it, I noticed it was getting to be more comedic, which those of us who have read Judge Dredd the comics know there's very little humor in the comics. And now I'm going to jump to Dredd. It's funny that this movie it came out 5 years ago. I didn't see it in the theaters, but I don't think my neighborhood theater had it. I think it was maybe only downtown had it. And I only had it for a limited run. But this movie was a great story. And it was funny. It was just circumstances that build up this story, because he was just arresting 3 individuals who was on drugs, driving nuts. They hit a civilian, and Dredd blew out one of the tires, and one escaped, and which was very unusual because he dealt with that. But then he had to go deal with you can say the bodies that was found because of Mama, what she did like that, because of those earlier circumstances. And just from that alone, the story picked up, because she knew that she can't have the person that was arrested leave with the judges because of what they will find out. And it's just as simple as this, how this story was just a great, you can always say a great limited series running in the comics, because it had some great special effects, and man, it shows some good, brutal scenes, especially when Judge Dredd got shot. That was brutal. But now we're gonna go back to the Judge Dredd. Is that learning it after learning about we all know, because this movie is more than 20 years old, that this movie did not do well in the theaters. It tanked miserably worldwide and did not make his money back. And then it's considered, I think what year came out? 95, right? One of the top 10 worst movies of that year, and the worst movie of Stallone's career. But after researching it, I find out that Stallone put his 2 cents in it a lot of times when the director wanted certain scenes like that, because the director grew up reading the comics, and he wanted the gritty scenes like that, especially when some scenes where people were getting killed like that. It was filmed, but Stallone wanted to cut it out, but he wanted more comedy in it. That learns right there, that teaches right there. If you're a director that has done a great number of films that has great word of mouth, don't let an actor dictate the movie. I don't care how many movies Stallone directed. if don't mess this up. But it's I'm gonna get into the nitpicking between the two like that, but it's very different because remember 95 and 2012 is so many different years. In the 2012 we had more technology and all that with special effects. But the one thing that stood out in the 2012 is it's a great plot from beginning to end, and we didn't have to deal with this actor Carl Urban taking off his helmet because it doesn't. Yes, I know Judge Anderson, the girl in training that become Judge Anderson, she didn't have no helmet because she was not a judge yet, but she was in training. So that stood out why she wasn't wearing anything like that. But we're gonna get into that later on. But no, it's just weird that two different movies on the same character is so much apart, and like you could tell like one had more respect to the original source than the other. So we're gonna get into the other stuff later on.
Alrighty. Okay, let's move over to Philip.
I'm the child of the original Dredd movie because that's the kind of movies I grew up with. So I'm quite used to that kind of way it's being produced and shown. I liked Stallone in that because he didn't take it too seriously. He didn't take himself seriously, and it's just like a bubblegum type adventure movie for me. So I like that more than the 2013 one? The 2013 one I found a bit too 2012 one, sorry, my apologies, was too gratuitous with the violence, especially when they had the slow-mo effects showing you bullets going through people's faces and God knows what. I just thought it was over the top. And whereas you can take your kids to watch the Stallone one and they can enjoy that without too much horror stuff, you can't really show them the 2012 one. That's too over the top. But it was a good. I will say that the 2012 one was a good movie. I just found it just a bit too dark and too gritty for my taste. Whereas Sylvester Stallone, I could sit back and just kick back and enjoy that one because it was more fun to enjoy as opposed to the later one.
Okay, all right, Susan and Alex.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. So. Okay, Dredd. I'll start with the one that I saw. In a bigger format. I really enjoyed that movie. It made me do the research to get to find out about Judge Dredd, the comic book character, and I was interested. And Carl Urban did a really amazing job as Judge Dredd. I mean, he really did. But when I went back to do the comparison of the two shows for this podcast, I was amazed. I mean, the one in 1995 had such an amazing cast. I mean, there was Max von Sydow, there was Sylvester Stallone, there was others. I mean, it was a hugely rich in cast members. But I can see what William's saying about it falling down. But yeah, there were I mean, besides the cast, I enjoyed the sort of direction that Carl Urban took with the character. Now that I know, and I guess Sylvester Stallone made some decisions that I don't really like, but it was a good movie because of the cast. I mean, if only because of the cast. So
yeah, I've tried to watch the 95 version with Stallone. It did have a great cast, and it started out okay, but as the movie went on, it got worse. It's all very well if they want to talk about, people having a certain point of view, but Judge Dredd is not a comedic character. And it's not meant for comedy, and it has to be comedic. It has to be probably dark or a very quick line. So unfortunately, while the original Stallone version might have had like maybe 5 good points out of that long movie, Rob Schneider is definitely not one of them. And the movie went all over the place. Comic books, Batman wasn't the only character that was dark, and Judge Dredd was dark. And it wasn't really a good tribute to do the first movie so comedic. The second movie with Urban, yes, it's well within keeping of the character. It's well within keeping of the universe. It was a little gratuitous with the violence, but that's the way they make the movies, and it's not against the comic book. It's very much staying in the world and the universe. So while I thought that Urban did a very good job, and he usually does a good job in almost all his roles, the movie dragged about maybe 10 minutes, but otherwise I thought it was a very good movie and miles above the Stallone version.
Alrighty. Okay, let's move over to AJ.
Yep. Hi there. Yeah, I watched the 95 version of Dredd. I watched it as a kid as well. I think I agree. It wasn't meant to be really comedic. I mean, like Rob Schneider's character, he was, even the actor Rob Schneider, he's a comedic actor. So for him to have like little throw out comedic lines, it's fine. But I was sick and tired of Stallone's constant, you know, just over and over and over, using it all the time, you know. It just was ridiculous. Even the outfit he had, I mean, it might have been comic accurate, I'm not entirely sure, but like the big shoulder pads, the boots that like made him like 12 feet tall, it was just utterly ridiculous. The 2012 version I thought was actually quite good. It had almost sort of a spaghetti western standoff style where they're in the tower, you know, going up level by level, you know, taking out people as they go. You know, there's that scene where they walk down a hallway and all these shutters and windows are closing behind them as they go past, which I thought was just a brilliant scene that was. Also in that version, they stole a Justin Bieber song and they used that for the when they got high. They slowed it down 800% and it just sounds so freaky and eerie. It was just really well done. Urban as Judge Dredd, you know, not taking the helmet off, purely brilliant. I was sick and tired of seeing Stallone's face, especially when he was trying to be serious, but I don't think he ever really could be. And I just loved the end of the movie, you know, Mama getting her brain splattered all over the floor. But I'll explain more throughout the, you know, the cast, you know, my little nitpicks of the 95 version. So yeah.
Yes, Circe takes a dive. Okay, B-Fed.
Oh, boys and girls, where do I start? Uncle Beef has so much on this. It is literally the difference between night and day. It truly is. Yes, you have, yeah, a time difference. You have 1995 against 2012. And yeah, there's a massive cultural difference. But if you look at the source material, which is Judge Dredd, which was in 2000 AD, a British comic book, as opposed to the Marvel DC things that you've seen on the screen, you know, so much of recent years and everything like that. This is a British comic book. It's a British story that started in 1977. So if you picture the sort of the social climate at the time, there was a lot of disharmony, upheaval. So if anything, it's a very bleak perspective, very British, I suppose, aspect and a take on the world. It is very dark. It's very, you know, disenfranchised, unhappy with the system and everything like that. And you lose that with the 1995 version. Yeah, it is garish. It is big. The costume, yes, as AJ said, is more accurate to the comic, but it's impractical and it just doesn't work. The fact that he takes the helmet off, then you've lost it completely, because what you do is then you fall into the trope of it being a buddy cop movie when you've got Roy Schneider, and that's what it is. It turns into Lethal Weapon meets like a comic book movie. The first thing that Judge Dredd says on the screen is "I am the law." So basically, then it just becomes a ticking box. You've got catchphrase. It's catchphrase. It's running the catchphrase. You've got the evil twin brother. You've got your Asian scientist who all goes bad and goes evil. There's a lot of stereotypes that are put in this movie. Will said something about budget. This has actually got a $70 million budget, double what the 2012 version has got. It made more money. It made money back, whereas the 2012 one lost money. But I tell you what, the 2012 one looks a hell of a lot more classy for the money. The way I equate to it is, think about Blade 3 and think about the original Blade. It's like that. The Carl Urban version of Dredd is your Blade version, and the one you've got with Sylvester Stallone is Blade 3. It's just a giant car crash. It really is. The 2012 one is by far the more superior version. Okay, the costumes are changed. Great. Do you know what? It works. It seems realistic. There's a higher body count in the Stallone one. It's like I think it tops out about 147, 150 people, whereas the other one, you're surprised at it, it's only 100 odd people, just only over 100 odd people body count in the 2012. It is a night and day difference. And it is, I think it lends itself more to the grittiness, to this, and that's the thing. The violence is visceral. It's a case of, you have to understand that, there is this, the situation that it's set in is a political type of thing. You have the idea in the Stallone version of block war, and people are just like shooting people and everything like that. There's no idea of the disenfranchisement to it. They're just shooting things for the sake of shooting things. There's no real message to it. Whereas in the 2012 one, you actually get an emotive idea behind it. The people are sort of like, they're being recycled. When the dead bodies are there, they said, "I'll come and get a body for recycling and a cleanup and everything like that." It's a case of you just have two completely different stylized versions. And I'm sorry, the Stallone one falls apart. It is a buddy cop movie. It's done for comedy purposes. There's love interest. It's basically, I'm trying to think where Demolition Man, was it before or after this? Because in essence, it's like a rehash of Demolition Man, either it being before it or after it. It's the same movie, rebranded, repackaged. But I tell you what, let's do a comic book adaptation that, Batman works, so what can we find that's actually cheap property to buy? We're going to buy a UK one, and we're going to basically run it through the meat grinder. I love the fact that the 2012 one has got a love for the source material. It worked when they did Deadpool. It worked when they did Blade, which is a similar sort of timeline, to be honest with you. It doesn't have to be big budget. It just has to be faithful and true, and that's the great thing is there's an understated performance. There's less dialogue from Dredd in the 2012 one. He says less for the whole movie than Stallone says in the first half hour of his movie, and that's what carries the weight of the character. It's the presence, not the words. So it's a night and day difference. But God, if you haven't seen the 2012 one, go and watch it, please.
Okay, Lady Neo.
Okay, now first, Beef. The Judge Dredd movie was after Demolition Man. Demolition Man was in 1993. And yes, I would have to say that, yes, it does carry off some of that Demolition Man finesse. I like Demolition Man the same. But now, for the 1995 Judge Dredd, I would have to admit, is it near the comics? No way. Love interest. Love is one of the issues in the comics that's forbidden. I think it's forbidden for judges to have love or have any kind of relationship with another judge. So that was a kick in the face right there. But if you just want to sit back, you want to relax, you want to enjoy what you're just, oh, wow, Judge Dredd. I don't really want to have it connected to the comics. This is something where it's just like an action adventure, relax and enjoy. Now, you want to go over to 2012, and you want that nice, pretty, dark, beautiful violence, nicely implemented of the slow-mo drugs and all the dark, dingy. It's just beautiful. Yes, I love that one. And it's really, really, really close to the comic. Dredd doesn't need to say anything because they know who he is. Boom, right there. Another thing. Oh, I forgot her name. I don't know her name. Anderson, I think.
Anderson.
Okay. Anderson. I love the concept of her character. It was really well implemented. They worked to get the chemistry between her and Dredd was really good. And her using her gift and the way it was brought on by special effects, that was great. The problem with me is that I love the 1995 version. I do, but not for the reasons why I love the 2012 version. Totally different. I love Stallone's because I can sit back, relax, and enjoy a nice action adventure. 2012, if I feel like I want to see something dirty, gritty, bloody, all of that beautiful nonsense, I can just get over there, watch that one for hours, maybe even 4, 5, 15, 20 times. Dredd one, that's if I'm feeling light or whatever. If I want something nice, light, fluffy, colorful, and friendly for the kids, there you go. But it's like a tilter thing for me. I love the Dredd one. I love 2012, but I love this one too. I just love Carl Urban's one better.
Okay, before we move on, the award for the darkest performance in the 1995 Dredd movie, Judge Dredd, with Stallone was the ABC combat robot. That was probably the darkest character in the whole damn movie, other than, well, Rico tried. But you know, the one thing I cannot forgive the 95 movie for, even though I went and saw it in the theater, because I remember that very big moment when they got to the point, Stallone takes the helmet off. I looked over, and all across the theater, there had to have been at least a dozen or more people who got up and walked out at that point, because they're like, no way in hell. But the one thing I cannot forgive the 95 movie for, okay, you're making a big, huge budget movie of probably one of the biggest characters in the UK, gritty, dystopian future. So what's the band you choose for the theme song for this movie? The freaking Cure. Who came up with that idea? You've got to be kidding me. That's the one thing I can't forgive the 95 movie for more than anything, was that. Oh man, that theme song. Oh geez. But okay, yeah, the 95 movie, it was a much higher budget. Look at the star power you had. You had Max von Sydow, Armand Assante, Diane Lane, who by the way, a couple of years down the line would be an Oscar-winning actress, with doing the nasty scene and and Unfaithful. And then, Jürgen Prochnow. Incredible performances, but to me, it's like they were kind of wasted. Because you have this dark dystopian future, and then what do we throw into it? Rob Schneider. I'm like, really? Yeah, it was good to the point, sure, the special effects were there. The cityscapes were beautiful. I even loved the flying lawmasters. But then who do we get to design the uniforms? Versace. What? Oh, man. Okay, so let's talk about some dark points. Let's open it up. Yeah. In the 95 movie, as we said, they decided to put it into a lighter tone. They tried to make it, for probably a wider viewing audience to try to recoup their costs. Like I said, you had the ABC combat robot in there who was, like I said, the most badass thing walking around. But at the same time, it's like, were they sticking him in there for toys or what was going on with it? We don't know. But I don't know. What do you guys say? Who wants to throw it first? Any dark points on these?
I do. I think, yeah, I agree with you in the point that it was aimed at a wider audience. That your leading bit, you've got Schneider being, taken from sort of, coming back to the city and everything like that. And you do have this romanticized idea that it's a glistening future with these high-rise buildings, and you've got the building of justice that's shaped like an eagle and everything like that. screaming comic book, and they're desperately trying to do comic book. Well, I think that's the thing. You do get the idea that there are two tiers to society. That you have your upper levels of the building are for the the rich and the powerful, and then by the time you get down to street level, it's like the poor and disenfranchised. But it just doesn't work. It didn't seem to be a movie. I think, thinking back at the time, that they were trying to sell toys for. That was the weird thing. I think when you've had movies of a similar sort of time that were sort of comic book adaptations, you had the slew of Batman movies and everything like that, and there were toys aplenty with those. But there wasn't anything like that with Dredd. But it was camp and kitsch to a certain degree. The criticisms that we can have at certain degrees levied at the sort of the Batman stuff, but that was the 60s. Do you know what I mean? That was the situation at the time. I think the thing for me that made the big difference is, you could say, the 2012 one is dark and gritty, but also if you took elements out of it, it works on really classic movies that have worked before that, because it's also like a combination of Die Hard and Mad Max. You put the two of those together, and that's a movie. The original Mad Max is the 70s, and Die Hard is the 80s, and it works. It gives you a classic action movie vibe, and this one, you've got the cast, you've got everything, but it's style over substance. I would have forgiven this more if this was a movie that was perhaps made in the late 80s, where you have this sort of greed is good and everything was garish and loud. But by this time in the 90s, it's sort of like, it got old. Making, like Neo said, Demolition Man was 93. If I want to watch something that's light and fluffy and has this idea of a future that's not great and everything like that, that is a better movie. It's just a case of, well, this works, let's try and do more of the same.
Okay, AJ, you got your hand up.
I was just going to say, I like the flip side of both movies. Like, you've got in the 95 version, the Scum Society are in the lower levels, High Society up at the top. And in the 2012, you got the Scum Society at the top of the buildings, and you got the everyday and powerful people at the bottom of the buildings, which I thought was a really good flip, because, Scum Society, we got the power, we got the money, we got the influence, we're going to rule over you people. I like that whole concept.
Okay, Lady Neo.
Let me see. A dark point in the 1995 movie. In a sense, there were a few, but they were, as I would say again, a little fluffy. Like the whole power corrupts with the judges. That was if they would have made that a bit more, added a bit more to it, it would have been a bit more darker. If they would have made it grittier, it would have worked. But you have other things going around that it says, oh, wow, okay, power corrupts, whatever. Here we go again with that. Then the whole thing with Stallone being, the whole thing about the clones. That was the thing that kind of, I was a little, I'm not trying to say a bad word. But I was a little upset about was the whole clone issue. It works again. It doesn't work again. Yes, that's a dark point, but it doesn't really. To me, it didn't fit because it's like you had three darks. You got corrupt of the judges. You got the whole clone issue in Rico and that whole issue with him and his drama. There was something else I wanted to discuss. I think that was it. I thought there was three, but now I can see that maybe one was really connected with the other with the whole corruptness thing. So I don't know. There we go. I'm done.
Okay, trivia question. How many people here know who read the opening crawl for Judge Dredd 95?
I know who it was.
Yep, it was James Earl Jones, uncredited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to look that up because I've been sitting here for years going, oh, wait a minute. All right, I know that voice. I know who that is. And then he's reading about this dark dystopian future, and then it's shiny, happy time. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, we're supposed to be talking about this, broke down post-apocalyptic future, and we have Rob Schneider in there. Oh, it's all funny. It's all great. Take me to a cash machine. Oh, look, eat recycled food. Oh, my God. You know what the funniest part about the recycled food machine was? The fact that it had a Coors ad on top of it. More than anything. Oh, but then yeah, you get to 2012, and to me that just fit the bill a lot better. That is a dystopian future. That you have the opening bits being read, of course, by Carl Urban as Dredd. Describing, look, it's not a shiny, happy place to be. It's a shithole. It's not great. You've got all these millions and millions of people crammed into this little area, about the equivalent of like a few states, and everything else is like wasteland. And it's like, oh, it's just so much darker, so much better. Even the villain, I hate to say it, I prefer Mama could kick Rico's ass any day of the week. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Like when Lady Nia was saying about the cloning thing in the '95 movie, I got a little bit very upset about that because that really that's the way they explain how come Judge Dredd's fingerprints was on and the bullet and all that. I said it was cloning, but I didn't like that at all. But but what was weird because that's the one the main thing was because of the cloning, and then Rico wanted to take over the judges and killed all these people to take over like that. So that's not really a good plot. But if you go to the 2012 one, is that Mama was a big drug dealer. If you saw when Dredd was talking to Anderson, that the building was broken down into different gangs like that, but she took out all the other gangs there and controlled the whole thing herself. But is that Dredd didn't find out that it was that the building was also the manufacturing warehouse of the drug itself, which was that stood out pretty good. Also, then we find out that in the Dredd movie that some of the judges was bribed to work for Mama like that, and that really stood out like that. That really was a kicker right there. Well, and it's like Anderson had to deal, with her, even though they didn't get into that much about her childhood like that and her mental ability like that. Just like she kept the prisoner that all he wanted to do was rape her like that. So she had to deal with that, and then she punished him later on with controlling his head. So that really stood out. That was another thing about the Stallone movie, that they didn't use Judge Anderson in the movie because this actress Diane Lane was playing Judge Hershey. She wasn't Judge Anderson. She was another character. And that I said at least they could have used more than one person from the comics like that.
Sponsored by our good friends at the Chocolate Company.
Yeah, that's probably why like that. But then again, when Mama spoke in the intercom, she told everybody, whoever's not involved in this, stay in the house because this place is gonna get lighted up. And then she wasn't playing around, and that was the main plot. She wanted to protect the warehouse of the drugs, and she wanted to get rid of these two judges who was arresting one of her men. She didn't want the secret of the warehouse being found. So that was just a simple little plot like that, and that made this movie great. While the Stallone one about the cloning and all that. I didn't like that at all. Of course, the main like you said earlier, Freedom, like people got up and walked away when he took off his helmet. I said, I don't understand why Stallone couldn't swallow his freaking little pride and use their fist the way they do in the comics. That when he sits down and take his helmet off, you don't see his whole face, just from the nose down like that. If he couldn't do that and just respect the comic that much, then he shouldn't have done the movie at all.
It's because it was sequel and he'd want the money if he had to be brought back. I mean, the thing that I really like about the 2012 one as well, where you said, Brian, about the opening, the opening trawl. You have the opening monologue from James Earl Jones, and you have the opening monologue in the 2012 one. There's actually a closing voiceover on the 2012 one that Carl Urban does as well, and it's pretty much the same as what he says at the start. So in essence, it's a case of, everything that's happened in this whole movie, all the death, the destruction, the carnage, all the things that he has been through, it hasn't changed a thing. You get to the end of the movie, of the Stallone one, and there's everyone outside, the world has changed forever. We're forming a new League of Justice, and we want you to be the leader. No, I'm a street judge. Yeah. Cheers, mate. But he walks out and he goes and gets on his bike, and his boss says to him, what happened? Just a drugs bust. The perps were a little reluctant. And that's it. It's literally, it's another crap day on the job. So he's just going to go straight off, and things have not changed. going back to what I said about the way the city looks, you get the overview of how Mega City looks in the 2012 one, and it looks not that much dissimilar from how cities look now. You have freeways, you have cars moving, you have buildings. It's just the size and the structure of the buildings are somewhat different, and that's the thing. You get a marvelous version of reality that is somewhat only a stone's throw away from where we are now. But you get this idea of, he's fighting a losing battle, whichever way you look at it, and things aren't going to change. And if you're going to make a movie that is about a dystopian future, you have to have a dystopian future ending, and you get that with the 2012 one. You don't get that with the 95 one. It is fluffy. It is throwaway. It's pap. But I'm sorry. I'm in certain aspects, I'm a truist, and that's why I've got so much love for the Dredd one.
Okay, Susan and Alex, get your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I also remember, I mean, I know it's slightly off the topic, but I remember trying to talk to people about Judge Dredd and Demolition Man, and they actually got the movies confused. I mean, that's not a good sign either. And I understand that maybe Stallone, was afraid of the British version, or the British versus America, translation, but it just went too far off the rails. There's too much Snyder in it. I mean, if he had, it's almost like The Fifth Element, and that was even a better movie. But it's like, no, I know you want to have comedy, and I know you want to have comic relief, but if you're trying to do a sci-fi movie, you keep it down to 20 minutes with the comic relief. You don't keep going, and it just got to the point where I was like, you know what? Actually, if I had a choice, I wouldn't want to see either movie, but I'd rather watch Demolition Man, but I'm going to stop after 30 minutes. I'm just give me something that, is truer to the book. And that's where Urban, did such a great job. And, you really feel like you're actually watching the comic book. I mean, it was a little violent, but that's what the comic book is. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how the comic book was, that's how it should be on the film.
Also, what made it stand out more than anything was the uniforms. Look at Stallone's uniform in the 95 one. Even at the beginning, he's walking around. Oh, look, it's all shiny, clean, not a scratch on it. But then when you look at Urban's uniform in his movie, even from the very beginning of the movie, the one eagle thing is like bent in, like it's been bashed in. He's got scratches all over the helmet. It's like, this is obviously not a happy place to be. He's been through, it basically shows they don't even have time to recoup and look, here's your new uniform every day. No, that's not going to happen. He's out there every day, getting his ass beat left and right. And that's what I loved about it. Just the fact the uniforms even told a completely different tale between these two versions. So, just those little details like that. Plus, the Lawmasters in both movies did kick ass. I like the flying Lawmasters, but they were kind of bulky. I still kind of prefer the ones in the 2012. They're a bit more sleek, a little bit better. Look like they're more handled for speed. Even though they don't fly, they were still awesome. So, plus all the nifty gadgets they had in there. The flash grenades, gas grenades, and all that. You can just pull them out and throw them. And then also, I also did like the look of the Lawmaster in the second movie a lot better. It was, looked like it was more of a combat weapon. It didn't have all these bright LEDs all over it. It's like, what's the point of having a weapon that has all these big lights on it? You're tucked into a corner. You're waiting to jump out on your enemy. There he is. I can see him by the freaking bright LEDs on his gun. It's like, because the ones in the 95 movie, they were lit up. You could see them like 100 yards off. It's like, oh. So lots of little differences between here and there between each movie. Like I said, I prefer the 2012 more than anything. Like I said, the 95 was okay for its time. In the 90s, the lighthearted, comedy, blah, 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 buddy movie. But here's the thing. When I sat down to do this comparison, I watched Dredd first. And then I went to watch the 95 one, and I'm like, wow, I'm having a hard time getting through this now. I really did. I was like, considering, the other one's more steeped in reality. whereas the 95 one's trying to say, yeah, the future really sucks, but it's okay. It'll turn out all right in the end. Ugh. Okay, anything else before we wrap it up?
Yeah.
No, I watched it the opposite way to you, so I'm glad I had it as a palate cleanser.
Okay, go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like in this movie, the 2012 version where Dredd doesn't constantly just blow things up, you know, without giving warnings to people. Like he told the homeless guy, you got to move, you know, if you're here when I come back, you're in trouble. And as they're walking out, he's like, right, you're coming with us. And all of a sudden, the door comes down and squishes the guy. It's just like, he warned him.
Also, when
And,
Urban says, I am the law in the 2012 one, I could actually feel my balls shrinking up. I'm not kidding. I was like, okay,
also,
shit just got real.
It's not done to make a trope or a clip for the trailer, and that's the thing. There's no thing that's done to be like, hey, yeah, I think with the 2012 one, it's not. It's a case of it's a piece, and you don't actually have. That's the weird thing. If you look at it like on paper, the Dredd that you've got in the Stallone one, there's a character arc. He's like black and white, and there's no shades of grey. And he goes through this journey, and by the end of it, he is changed. He realizes that there are shades of grey between. By the end of the 2012 one, yeah, there's Anderson's been through the journey because she's the rookie and everything like that. You're not ready for this. You're ready for this. You have that as the movie goes on. Dredd is completely unchanged. Dredd is just like, boom, he's a straight line. So, you know, from that point of view, it does make, you know, a world of difference. But if you look at it as an overall piece, yeah, it is, like I said at the start, night and day.
Okay, Lady Neo.
Well, it is really like what you said, Beef. It is. It is like light and day. Because, and the thing I liked really about the 2012 one was this. To me, the 2012 one felt like, okay, this is what's happening in a comic book. This is what's happening. Drug bust, point A, point B, rookie, boom, 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 boom. Like in a comic. 1995 version is like, we're going to make the world better. It's like, I'm sitting there like, yeah, I remember why I don't like this one that much. Now I'm sitting there watching all the fluff, all the bright colors, all the comedy, and how he's getting buddy with the female judge, and that ain't supposed to happen, and you know. So I was like, okay, that's everything, and you see everything. The sights, the scenes, the signs, the fight in the air, and all that nonsense. Yeah, okay, that was that. But when you're going over to something simple where it's just a tower, an apartment, and everything, and it's just, hey, look, this is what we do every day. Boom. I like that much better. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm going to say a bad word if I do.
Okay, Susan and Al.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just, yeah, I mean, Stallone can be good, but this is not one of his characters, and he's probably better off with Rambo and Rocky and maybe the Expendables, but again, it's still not the same material. And Stallone, yeah, he doesn't have a lot of range. I'm sorry. I like him. I love him as Rocky Balboa, but this is not his character, and he probably shouldn't have been chosen to play it. And then they overdid it with the comedy, and I think they were trying to be, okay, this is either a feel-good movie or, you know, we're going to make it American instead of British. And again, it doesn't work because it's not measured out correctly. And Judge Dredd is a dark character, so you can't, if you have any comedy, it has to be very brief.
And
Okay.
can I just interject a little bit?
Go ahead.
There was the thing that really caught me about Dredd, the one with Carl Urban, was his sidekick, the woman who had that, the mind reading ability, the mentalist ability, was, I mean, she was so right on. I mean, I thought that her character was amazing, and is she in other comic books? Because she's got like this whole amazing thing. Anderson, that's right. Yeah. So anyway, is she in further comic books? What's
Yeah,
her?
yeah. She's an important character in the comics, especially when Judge Dredd shows up. But I'm going to get into that. This is the funny thing is about the Stallone movie. The budget was $90 million, and I think just hit 110, whatever, worldwide. While the Carl Urban one was only, I think, 30 to 45 million, and I think it's hit like just over 41 million. But this the funny thing is, people still rather watch the 2012 one, and they're eagerly awaiting for this movie to be shown on TV. But the rumor is they're going to make a TV series called Mega City 1, and Carl Urban will say he will play Judge Dredd again, that he's willing to do it. So that's the thing.
Yep, they are working on it. Matter of fact, it's Rebellion, which prints the character stories in 2000 AD, is teaming up with IM Global, and they're going to try to make it a big budget series. And yes, Carl Urban has stated he wants to be involved with it. Matter of fact, he's in talks right now to play Judge Dredd. Okay, AJ, you had your hand up for a little bit, so go ahead.
You're right. I was going to say, in the 2012 version, it's good to see actually Dredd reload his gun. I mean, what was the 95 one working on? Magic or nanites or something? Or and also, I like the part where they, Mama's people are using a machine gun to shoot up Dredd and Anderson, and instead of killing them, they make an escape for them to get out of the building quickly for a little bit. You know, the high caliber machine guns they were using. I mean,
Gatling guns.
Yeah, they took out a whole chunk of the building, killed probably hundreds of people, but missed the entire target, which was Dredd and Anderson, which was stupid.
See, that's what happens when you do too much drugs, man. You can't see straight.
So, like it or lump it, like I said, any more views on this where we go ahead and rate? We're going to do a rating on each, then we'll put it to bed.
Let me ask, has anyone read the comics recently? I only read it for a little bit.
I read it in the 80s one, and then a few of the 2000 AD magazines, because my store, they sell out really fast. But I know it's still going on. Anderson is still around. Judge Dredd has come back a couple of times, and then hopefully they could use some of these great stories for the Mega City 1 TV series.
So has it remained dark and gritty?
Yes. Big
How
time.
How much comedy is in it?
What comedy? What's that?
Yeah, okay. There's no comedy in it. Okay.
It's British. We do very low key. Yeah.
Black comedy.
Yeah, very dry comedy. Yeah.
The only main comedy scenes when somebody get booted out of Mega City 1, they gotta wander the wastelands by themselves. That's it.
Yeah, retirement options are somewhat limited.
Matter of fact, if I remember a while ago, there was some folks who even made a fan film series based off the Dredd universe. I think it was Judge Minty, and that was pretty good. I enjoyed that pretty much. So, if you want to look out for those, they're out there. I think I just brought it up on the search engine. So, if you want to check those out, they're out there as well. And they don't do too bad in their versions either.
Yeah, Judge Minty, I think it's the story of a guy who basically goes out and to the school, the unclean earth and everything like that, and sort of, it's the retirement option of when they go out and bringing law to the lawless.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rate these suckers and put them to bed. All right, let's start at the bottom this time. We'll start with Lady Neo.
I'm going to give the 1995 version a 7.5. I do enjoy watching it. It's a nice sit down if you don't worry about any comics or anything else. You just want to forget everything. Watch it, enjoy yourself. Nice, fluffy, friendly, and there you go for that one. The 2012 one, I can't give it anything lower. I have to give it a 10. If I could, I'd give it 100, 1,000, 1,000,000. It's that good. It's raw, it's gritty, it's bloody. It's just, I just love that kind of mess. Let me stop. I'm done.
Okay, Susan and Alex.
Okay, I think it was delightful to watch the Carl Urban one after seeing him at Boston Comic-Con. He referenced that, he answered questions about it, and so that was really amazing. And so I'll give that one a 9.5, and then the Stallone one, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. It's not a Dredd, but it's sort of like a bunch of braids. He's Judge Braid instead of Judge Dredd.
Yeah, I'd give the Dredd one with Carl Urban. I'm going to give that a 9. It's faithful to the source material. It's gritty. It is done right. Of course, I don't really like violent movies, but it's done right. The Stallone version, they had some good ideas, but the execution was terrible. They didn't rein it in. Then it gets confused with Demolition Man. It's just both of them. Stallone is not a sci-fi person. Leave that to Schwarzenegger. So the Judge Dredd and the Demolition Man, I'll be lucky if I give that a 7, and it's begrudgingly giving it a 7.
Okay, AJ.
For the 95 Dredd, I'll give it a 5 out of 10, only because of Rob Schneider's line when Judge Dredd is undressing that guy, and he says, "We haven't got time for this." And I'll give the 2012 one a 9 out of 10. That was just pure magic. It was awesome.
Okay, Beef.
I've really got to give the Stallone version a 4.5 out of 10. It is basically Demolition Man reworked. That's it. You've got the same idea. You've got the clones, the frozen bodies, the same thing at the end of it. You've got the same tropes, the fish out of water, the unfeeling main protagonist with the female trying to bring them along. It's a buddy cop thing. It's just playing to a populist audience, and it is just it's style over substance. It's superficial. It's crap. It really is. It ain't a good movie. It was what it was, and it's just throwing money in the hope of getting money back. It did it, okay, but universally it was panned, and it did the one thing that you are not supposed to do with the character, which is take the goddamn helmet off. You just don't do it. Please leave Dredd alone. And that's the thing with the Carl Urban one that they did right. They didn't muck about with him. He just seems this like basically a character of stone, unflinching, unchanging, emotionless. You don't really feel an emotional connection to Dredd at all. You feel no connection to him. He's just this piece of rock. But you have this really good thing that comes from a movie that has that's done on a very low budget, certainly by today's standards as well. And like the comparison that I made, it's like Die Hard, yeah. But if you mix it with Mad Max, and I'm talking about the very original Mad Max movie, which was a low budget movie in itself, and it is so it's centered. There's a focus of the attention, which is in this block that is completely locked down. So there's no going in, there's no going out, and it's a very small cast. And that's the thing. It heightens drama because it's an enclosed situation. It's an enclosed cast. And you just have this, you feel like you've been through the ringer by the end of it, but Dredd is unchanged by it. And that's why I've got to give it a 10. It is so I don't think many people have actually watched this movie because it did sort of fall off the radar because it wasn't a big budget. It wasn't like a big star. And Carl Urban at that time wasn't a big star, in my opinion. By the time he was in Star Trek and everything like that, his star was on the rise. But this is such a really, really good, if you like a comic book adaptation that is faithful to the source material, if you like a dystopian future or a sci-fi movie, or even a sort of like you had movies that were a big hit, like the Raid, which was a kung fu movie that was based in like one building. I think they probably had watched Judge Dredd off the back of this to have just like a really tight, self-contained movie, and it is very clever and it is so brilliantly executed, and it's so begging of a sequel. And I hope whether we get a movie version or we get the TV series that they're talking about now, bring Carl Urban back to do it. He's done it. It's a 10 out of 10 for me all the way, mate. It really is. I can't sing the praises of this movie enough. I'm glad I watched it a different way to you did. I watched the slow one first because I didn't feel dirty by the end of it. didn't.
Okay, Philip.
Can I add an addendum to the Judge Dredd?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, Big Finish did do a couple of audio plays to do with Judge Dredd. I did listen to a few of those. They were very kind of like noir-ish kind of thing. And so it was nice to listen to those. And they were quite close to the comics, as fair as I can say. But going back to the actual movies themselves, as I said earlier, I do prefer the more quiche kind of like Sylvester McCone, I can't say his name, Sylvester Stallone type, because that's me. I like it more fuzzy and more warmer than what the Carl Urban one is. But I will say that the Carl Urban Judge Dredd is a lot more edgier and a lot more interesting to watch than what the Sylvester Stallone one is. So I would have to say that with the Sylvester Stallone one, I'll rate that as a 7, and I'll give the Carl Urban one a 9. And there you go.
Okay, William.
Sylvester Stallone, learn from this movie. Don't stick your 2 cents into the director's chair. Let him run the movie that he wants it. If you want to run something, go run a television station like the BBC or whatever. And I want my $10 back that I blew to watch that crap that movie you was in. As for a rating, I'm gonna give it a Bozak 0. That's what it deserved. That's that for that 95 film. Now for the 2012 one, I look forward very much to either, like Beef said, another movie or the Mega City 1 television series. So I'm gonna give this movie a 10 out of 10. It's turned out it's great, urban warfare, and just going floor to floor, door to door, fighting your way out of it. It's a great film, and it's a shame that a lot of people did not see it in the theaters. But when it came out on DVDs and on demand, it became a cult classic very fast. So I gave my tips out for that. It was that 2012, 10 out of 10.
Hey, and for me, like I said, I'm going to be very generous. I'll give the 95 movie maybe a 6. And that's only because you had a lot of brilliant actors in it who really threw away a lot of great performances that were wasted on this movie. You know, you had Max von Sydow, Armand Assante, Jurgen Prochnow, Diane Lane, you know, all these other, Rob Snyder. Get him out of there. So I'll give it a 6. And like I said, and Dredd, of course, 2012 gets a 10 right off the bat, because I can sit down and put this movie in and watch it over and over and over again and still enjoy the hell out of it. Whereas the 95 one, I'll pop it on maybe once in a decade, and that's about it. You know, like a matter of fact, today was the first time I've watched the 95 Dredd in probably a few years. And to be honest, it really wasn't all that memorable. It's just, you know, big budget movies sometimes think, you know, okay, we throw stars at it, it'll be a hit. And I think the only reason Stallone even got the job is because he was one of the big action heroes of that time. And they were hoping it was going to sell tickets and all that. And also then he calls in his buddy Giannotto or whatever, Versace, to do the uniforms. Oh, God. Ugh. Shiny, happy, body tight clothes. Let's go out.
No, I gotta Versace design a costume, but it was turned down. And of course, he cried to Stallone about it, but they said no, we're not taking those. He wanted his costume, but those are not the Versace. He did design something.
Okay, because he's in the credits as having designed the uniforms.
I know. I think he designed other things, but not those uniforms the way he did it, because they're like, no.
Because with all that bright, shiny gold and all that, I don't know if they're going out to fight crime or if they're going to break out into a freaking chorus line.
Yeah, but wasn't the 95 movie costume more in
it was more in line. The big shoulder. Don't get me wrong. The big shoulder pads and everything like that is more in line with the comic book.
Yeah.
But you have to. There is a certain degree where you have to take comic license and artistic interpretation when you make it a practicality aspect. In the same way as like when we had the X-Men, we didn't have yellow spandex. Do you know what I mean?
True.
And also, like I said, the one thing I'll never forget the 95 movie before, besides having the freaking Cure as singing the big song, for the end credits, was the line, "Send in the clones."
But you know what, Rick? I like that song with the Cure. I kind of liked it. I think it fitted well for what it was.
Come on, send in the clones. Oh gosh. Well, folks, like I said, next time we're going to sit down and have a talk about Defenders. And I still haven't figured out what date we're going to do that yet. So I'll let you all know when we find out. So until then, everybody take care. Ta-ta. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You see.
Have a good one. Good night.